Hi, I'm Sarah Cowgill, along with Andrew Moran, John Clark, Dave Patterson, and Graham Noble. And this is The Conservative Five, an online TV production of Liberty Nation News. On today's episode, draining the swamp, busting through the clogs. It's time to clean up your workspace and consult the classifieds, and flushing the federal pipes. Pro-Second Amendment types are lauding gun freedoms and the big, beautiful bill. And Elon Musk is vying for political powerhouse status in third-party spoils. Finally, it's another quick fix to flex the brain in Just for Fun, Volume 75. All this and more in this edition of The Conservative Five.
C. Operate Alligator Alcatraz.
When it comes to the federal government, conservatives and libertarians in today's America have two main beefs. First, the government is far too big. Second, it has been weaponized against the opponents of leftist ideology. Are these criticisms justified? Reactions to recent State Department layoffs seem to confirm that in both cases, the right is, well, right. Department of State fired staffers did not take it very well being asked to clean out their desks and consult the classifieds. How petty did those non-essentials get, Graham?
Well, I thought it was kind of amusing, Sarah, to be honest. Basically, it was 1,353, I believe, federal workers. I mean, there are more to come, but that was a kind of a first wave of layoffs at the State Department. And it's really, when you look at the big picture, we have a federal government that has, about 3 million employees. It is in fact true that nobody really knows how many federal agencies there are. Those are the kind of subdivisions within various government departments. Nobody actually knows how many there are, really. I mean, it's kind of a mystery. There's various different figures for that. But anyway, the State Department guys and gals, as they were on their way out the door, they left little signs around the office. One of them, which appeared I guess was printed out multiple times and appeared in various locations, said, colleagues, those of you who remain, resist fascism, which, is kind of a bit silly because fascists are not known for laying off government workers. They are known for hiring. They are known for hiring a great deal more of them. So it's all a bit silly anyway. But of course, the fact that they use those words, resist fascism, tells you what their politics are, because obviously it's always the left that is calling everyone a fascist who doesn't agree with them. And resist fascism is simply another way of saying resist Trump, resist the Trump administration. So therefore, we know that the State Department, there's proof right there that the State Department is riddled with left-wing ideologues, and that really kind of is a problem because these people are not supposed to be politicized at all. The State Department is a very important department, one of the oldest departments in the federal government, in fact, and it's, it has a lot of national security stuff going on. So the last thing you need there is political zealots of any shade of politics. Of course, State Department is not the only department that's been hit as well. Also, the Education Department is about to start laying people off thanks to that move was blocked by a lower court. It went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court, in fact, on Monday, which, because I don't know when this show is going to be aired, but Monday, July 12th, the Supreme Court ruled 6-3 that the Trump administration could indeed start laying off Education Department people, while I believe that fight is going to go back to the lower court. But in the meantime, Trump can do it. There are no prizes, by the way, for guessing the names of the 3 associate justices who dissented from that opinion.
I think we know.
But there you go. So Trump is kind of slowly but surely winning his battle to lay off pouting government employees who seem to think that they are somehow entitled to their jobs, as opposed to the rest of us poor schmucks who work in the private sector.
Right. Well, we're lucky to have Mr. John Clark on here, a farmer and a former Democrat, and also a lawyer. I love to poke you on that. You're not a well, you might be a conservative now, but anyway, water under the bridge.
And a man with a good tan. Was also good.
Mr. Clark, can you expand on that U.S. Supreme Court decision that Graham mentioned?
Sure. Interestingly, a lot of these layoffs stem from the court's decision in which there was only one dissent from Ketanji Brown Jackson, which was called Trump versus Pouting Federal Workforce. Actually, it was the American Federation of Public Employees.
Same thing.
Yeah, well, I thought you'd agree. And that really kind of tees us up for an understanding of the legal dichotomy here. I mean, the underlying issue is whether, as alleged by Justice Jackson in her dissent, that Donald Trump is out to completely restructure the government at such a grand scale as to require congressional oversight involvement, or is he just engaging in typical executive branch and allowable legal actions to downsize the workforce, which Bill Clinton did and Obama did without having to restructure, the government through Congress. And that really is the underlying dispute, which then framed the issue at the trial court level, the district court, the federal district court, which basically tried to issue an injunction against firing these people pending what could be a very lengthy legal path while they figure it out. And the Supreme Court reversed that and stayed the injunction. But that, in a way, so I should explain, the lawyer hat on, not the farmer hat. Preliminary injunctions are generally regarded as an extraordinary form of relief. The bar is supposed to be very high for them because they do, in fact, have huge implications. And if you win the injunction or lose it, you may have largely won or lost the case. And in this case, by having the U.S. Supreme Court shut down that injunction, the firings can proceed. What the unions have called, they've complained, said you cannot unscramble that egg. Well, indeed, if they lay off hundreds and hundreds of people, it is going to have longstanding ramifications. And this was the complaint of the dissent, that Congress needed to be involved. But ultimately, what the Supreme Court determined was that this was just a broad executive order and an OMB memo. There were no specific layoffs before the court to assess. So in due time, this will come up to the courts again. But the U.S. Supreme Court ruled essentially that the district court had erred and that Donald Trump's executive order was not unlawful, and he is likely to prevail in the future on his rights as the executive, the leader of the executive, to lay people off. And so, just like in the lawsuit, Trump versus federal workers, we have the American people against this massive technocratic state, which is entrenched and doesn't want anybody to be fired because boo-hoo, they won't get their paycheck. And as Graham points out, that's the opposite of the fascism that we usually hear.
They keep saying that they're trying to, the Trump administration keeps saying that they are trying to, downsize government and save money for the American taxpayer. But Andrew, come on, we're not saving any money here. What's the backstory? Because there is no money being saved by firing a handful of people.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, out of a $7 trillion budget, federal payrolls account for about $100 billion of that. So that's not even a month's worth of interest payments. And you also look at the size of it. I mean, the Trump and Doge, their thing was reducing the size of government workers. The numbers are mixed so far. You look at the Department of Labor's weekly initial jobless claims. That's been pretty small. You look at the Challenger data. At the beginning there, you saw a sizable number of the planned job cuts based on federal workers and contractors. Graham mentioned that before about subdivisions. Government contractors is one thing that's not counted in the labor statistics, and that's something that if you're cutting cutting federal workers, State Department, whatever the case, that's something you'd see a reduction of. Now, so to your question, what's the end game? On Sunday night, before I went to bed, I was watching an interview with former President Richard Nixon, and he said that one of the reasons why he was targeted so much as he was because he, in his second term, he wanted to overhaul the federal government. He wanted to change the makeup of it. He wanted to reduce the size of the workforce in government. That's why everyone went after him. And that's part of the thing that Trump and the MAGA base have been talking about are the unelected bureaucrats, how much power they wield and how much how much they can enact a progressive agenda. I mean, if you have fewer federal workers, then perhaps you're going to spend less money on producing Elmo in Iraq, or you're not going to have drag queens, shows in South America, or whatever the case. So I think that is one of the reasons why the Trumponomics 2.0 has been trying to, I wouldn't say take a chainsaw because that has to happen, but why he's taking scissors to the payrolls at the federal level.
The safety scissors that kindergartners have, the round ends.
Yeah, I agree. But also, you have to look at the overall government, though. You actually see an increase in overall government payroll. So, state and local government, state and local level. You look at the recent June jobs report, and you actually saw a 74,000 increase in the number of overall government workers. And then, of course, you have the government adjacent sectors too, adding to it. So overall, I mean, government is still bloated. And as you alluded to, Sarah, it was safety scissors that my kids used to use when they were in kindergarten.
Thank you, Andrew. That was pretty concise. Even I understood everything.
Okay, so I'm gonna now from a dissertation on marginal utility.
I want to circle back because I forgot to ask this question. I'm going to pull Dave in on this one. Is the Supreme Court going to have to make every decision on everything that Trump does? I mean, is that what we're going to do? Is that what this administration is facing, Dave?
Well, I think it kind of looks that way, doesn't it? But one thing that could stop this Supreme Court being the default position to go to whenever there's a dust-up, and I know it's a little bit counterintuitive, but it would be for Congress to step in and pass legislation that codifies the executive power to reorganize and downsize agencies. I mean, you like to keep Congress out of the administration's business, but sometimes they're helpful in laying down the ground rules by which the administration, the executive, can do its business, and that's oftentimes helpful. And, the court's role is not to initiate or to oppose government downsizing, but it's basically there to resolve disputes over whether it's legal in specific instances. And it seems as long as there are administrative actions by the executive branch that push the boundaries of that without congressional clarity, I might add, the opponents of these actions are going to continue to challenge them, and they're going to come up through the lower courts, and the executive branch, would now, the executive branch could help themselves by involving Congress early in their decision making, but there's a danger in doing that because then you get a protracted fight over work product, and that's not helpful either. But I think that you're going to see this as a pretty constant until the Congress steps in and provides some clarifying legislation.
Well, more layoffs of the federal government employees, and our government hasn't collapsed whatsoever. So imagine that. Thanks for watching. Thanks, panel, for all your insight. President Donald Trump's big, beautiful bill has brought a big, beautiful opportunity to Second Amendment advocates by zeroing out the tax on certain guns and accessories mandated by the National Firearms Act. This controversial legislation raises a crucial constitutional question. Since a zero tax generates no revenue, is it a tax? Well, there's a lot to unpack here with this provision, and outside Second Amendment groups are already plotting on how to proceed. Mr. John Clark, put that lawyer hat on and tell us what this is for all the regular folks. What's it mean for us?
Well, what it means it's actually a very interesting legal question. Maybe I'm just a lawyer geek in this, but the National Firearms Act, which I believe was originally enacted in 1934, was basically trying to do an end run around the Second Amendment. And it said, well, we're not actually regulating your weapons. We're just putting a tax on them. And so Congress has the power to enact this law under its taxation powers. And basically that was used to pass constitutional muster. And that was specifically as applies to what are called Title II weapons, which are machine guns and sawed-off shotguns and the other things that we might remember as like Al Capone's weapons of choice. It has been refashioned in various ways, most recently and thoroughly in 1968. But if in fact you reduce the tax down to $0, it's $200 a weapon, which, as Mr. Fight pointed out in a recent article about the subject at the time, that was an astronomical sum. That would be like $4,500 today in a tax. It also, by the way, requires you to have an FFL license, a federal firearms dealing license, which has a lot of strictures on it as well. So Type 2 weapons are generally only rarely found and owned in America because they're very expensive, and you have to jump through a lot of hoops to get them. And that was all done through the pretense, because it really was a pretense, of a taxation power. So if there's no tax, how can you allege that Congress is applying a constitutional power that it is granted to tax things? So that's why gun rights people are jumping on this as we might say a removal or loosening of that loophole. It's kind of really getting rid of one, not creating one. And then it opens questions, as Jim addressed in his article, about how you can find yourself within or without these classifications based on what type of gun parts you use in a gun, and the whole assault weapons discussion. And so that, I think we'll be seeing more of this issue.
Yeah, John's referring to Jim Fight, who wrote an excellent article on this, going through every little nook and cranny. You can find it on libertynation.com. But yeah, look it up if you want more information, or you can just listen to us for 10 minutes or so. Anyway, all right, guys, I know everybody's got an opinion on this, and so just jump in, let's talk.
I will start right away. Then I'll say first, if you read James' excellent article, and John alluded to it. It says here, quote, adjusted for inflation, $200 in 1934 had the buying power of $4,782 today. That just shows how the Federal Reserve has destroyed America's purchasing power. I would also say that this is further proof that Roosevelt is one of the worst presidents of the 20th century. He was the icon of not letting a crisis go to waste. This is further evidence. Like you look at the year before this NFA, he had the Gold Confiscation Act, and he took everyone's gold because he wanted to change. There was a whole current situation. You can read. I've written on this. You can read on libertynation.com. In Roosevelt's case, the crisis was the Great Depression, and he used every tool at his disposal to make America progressive. And he was Woodrow Wilson on steroids at the time. So James Fight, excellent article. James Fight, I love you, man. That's a great article. I loved it.
I thought there was an interesting. There is an interesting similarity actually between the National Firearms Act and the Affordable Care Act, because both of those things sought to impose unconstitutional conditions on American citizens. In the case of the National Firearms Act, you are basically telling people what kind of firearms they are not allowed to own. And that, of course, is clearly unconstitutional. There was never any, despite what Democrats even to this day love to say, oh, back then you couldn't own a cannon. Yes, you could. You could own a cannon. If you could afford one, you could get your hands on one. You could own a cannon. There is no, in the Second Amendment, there is no buts. There is no caveats. There's no asterisks. There's no exceptions. Oh, your right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, except for machine guns. Of course,
for what we come up with.
But anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that the National Firearms Act was clearly unconstitutional. The Affordable Care Act was, because it is unconstitutional for the federal government to force you to buy a product. And so what did they do? What did they do for Obamacare to get it through the Supreme Court? The Obama administration lawyers, even though they'd been telling the public, no, this is not a tax. This is not a tax. What did they do? They went in front of the Supreme Court and they said it's constitutional because it's a tax. And, Chief Justice John Roberts agreed with that. And that's how Obamacare came into being similar thing to the National Firearms Act, really. And that's it's a sneaky way of doing as somebody said before, an end run around the Constitution by saying, oh, well, this is a tax.
I think it's important to realize that this is part of the big beautiful bill, and it eliminated the $200 registration fee altogether. Where it fell short was when they tried to say that it took precedence over the National Firearms Act, and the parliamentarian Elizabeth McDonough, and this is where the tax issue comes in. Elizabeth McDonough disallowed it because it was a policy, quote, policy issue, and not an issue that was appropriate for the reconciliation bill. But then you're talking out of two sides of your mouth. Either it's a tax bill or it's not. And so she kind of had her cake and ate it too, because they got rid of the $200 registration fee.
And I'm just curious as to where we're going to go with this. As people just are lining up, the gun rights groups are lining up to attack this. And I mean, John, what are they gonna do?
Well, I think another underlying issue here is that the NFA allowed them not only to tax weapons, but to register them, which has generally been a big frontline battle for gun rights groups, is that the government is not supposed to be regulating what guns we own, because that's infringing. And a gun registry is the first step towards a gun confiscation. So this was a backdoor through which the government was essentially registering, not in the name of tracking your guns, but of tracking your tax payments, kind of like, a tax return. So I think that also may be a frontline offense because, or battlefront, because these groups will try to preempt, if you will, the government from continuing to track these purchases. And yes, it'll create another huge political battle as the left says, oh gosh, everybody's buying a bazooka now. There aren't a lot of them in circulation anymore. But as Graham says, if you lift the tax limitation and you, the $200 tax was no longer, given inflation, as Andrew pointed out, no longer the hurdle that it had been in the 1930s. But the registration requirement and jumping through the hoops of being certified as an FFL license holder and paying for that license and all these other things are incredibly burdensome. So I think the lawsuits will be centering on eliminating those accoutrements of the bureaucracy.
Go ahead, Graham.
I was just going to say, I think John's right. I think it is only a matter of days now. If the whole battle over the NRA, the NFA itself really heats up, and gun rights groups try to get rid of it, it's going to be a matter of hours before you see Democrats saying, but you'll have 18-year-olds walking into gun stores and walking out with machine guns,
And nuclear warheads. But warheads will be common in most backyards now.
Remember, I gotta put my bazooka under my bed.
There's 2 reconciliation bills to go and 1 rescission bill. There's still time.
There's still time. Guys, you have brought such a great insight, comparison, contrast. This was great. Thank you so much for following what's been going on and tuning in with Jim every now and again. You can't close the barn door after the horses charge out for those greener pastures. We'll be watching and reporting next steps. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks, panel. Another third-party threat is in the works. Elon Musk, former Doge mastermind and once great bud of Donald Trump, announced on X he was launching his America Party. Former presidential candidate Andrew Yang seems to be on board as well. America has witnessed her fair share of random parties attempting to take the White House. Dave, will Musk be any different than, say, the American Vegetarian Party?
Short answer is probably not. Musk started the America Party basically in a fit of pique over the big, beautiful bill raising the debt ceiling by $3.3 trillion, which he found unacceptable. He wants a party to be a centrist party while focusing on physical conservatism, deregulation, and limited government, technology and innovation, merit-based immigration, and as well as science and technology, engineering, and mathematics in our schools. He breaks with conservatives, however, on this fascination that he has with establishing a pilot program for universal basic income. And he has a dim view of tariffs. But for the most part, I mean, he is in lockstep with what most conservatives and Republicans believe. Failed presidential candidate Andrew Yang of the Forward Party. If you turn around, you guys are going backward. But the Libertarian Party have offered to help with recruiting candidates. The basic problem with a third party is, and it's true with the America Party, is it essentially is the Republican Party with little variation. There are a few special interests that it distinguishes, but not very many. It has the potential of doing what Ross Perot's Reform Party did in 1990 election, defeating George H.W. Bush on one issue. It was one issue only, and that was the issue of taxes, while he agreed with everything else. And then you got Bill Clinton, on which there was no agreement on anything. So it's a very dangerous gambit, and it seldom is successful. And for the most part, it hurts the one you love.
Okay, that struck me as funny. Sorry. All right, Graham, I know you want to weigh in here, and it seems like Musk and Trump battle back and forth between this bromance gone bad, but is there something to this that we're not seeing?
Well, if there is, then I'm not seeing it. I just think I don't know how serious Musk really is about this. I thought Dave put it very well when he says that Musk announced the formation of this America Party in a kind of fit of pique, and that's how it seemed to me. And of course, it is a problem because everyone is always wary of third parties for the obvious reason, and Dave just kind of explained it very well, and that is that if you have a third party that is very similar in its agenda to one of the other parties, then nobody's going to go for it because it's going to split the vote, and therefore you're just handing victory to, if it's an America Party running in an election with obviously Republicans and Democrats, well, only the Democrats are going to benefit from that because, the America Party is going to split the vote. But here's the thing. I think this idea is kind of going to almost die on the vine because you can't, there's no such thing as centrist politics anymore. I mean, even in this country, you've got more and more people who are unaffiliated voters. The so-called independents are a growing block of voters, and they are kind of beginning to overshadow both the Republican and the Democratic Party voting blocks. But even independents, nobody should conflate being independent with being moderate or being centrist. These people are not. They just happen to have certain beefs with either the Republican Party or certain beefs with the Democratic Party. So they gave up their affiliation and became independents. But they're still very much right or left. Many of them are. There are not enough centrists, true centrists in this country. And who wants to be a centrist? Wasn't it that who was it the famous quote? If you're in the center, you're just going to get run over. And where's the centrists today in America? There aren't any. We are growing further apart. There's not too many people in the middle. I don't see what the American Party has to offer other than the chance of handing over power to the Democrats because they're splitting the Republican vote. But I don't even think they do that because I think that people who vote Republican are never going to vote for the America Party for that very reason. They don't want to dilute the Republican vote. And certainly with the supposed agenda of this America Party, I can't imagine how it attracts any Democrat voters. So I don't know where it goes.
Well, there was another party called the American Party, and it's my personal favorite. It's nicknamed the Know Nothing Party. And I can't remember all the details, but it was basically the people who were in this party didn't want people to know it. And so when they were questioned, they would say, I don't know anything. So it was the Know Nothing Party. I mean, there's 55 organized political parties in the U.S. And, what are they doing?
Well, I would say that President Trump, he was right when this whole America Party was announced on X, and he said that the U.S. political system is not designed for more than two parties. You see this every single federal election. The Libertarian Party cracks what 3%, 4%. It may change if you get like Ron Paul, maybe you get 10%, 12%. But for the most part, people are going to vote Republican, Democrat. It's not going to change. You have, two independent senators in the Senate. You have a couple in the House. That's as much as you'll get. Now, when it comes to the third parties, make the Whig Party great again. Why not that? Or, in today's day and age, you can talk about the transhumanist party with artificial intelligence and robotics. And you have the Communist Party. It's always a delight. And you have the Democratic Socialists of America. That's a hilarious political party. I mean, those conferences they have every single year when they're so sensitive to noise, or they have to do the jazz hands. Those things are the third party are jokes for that very reason. Even the Libertarian Party, it's become such a joke than when it was formed. Aside from the Mises Caucus, of course. But overall, the third party, it's not gonna gain any steam. And I'm gonna disagree quickly with Dave about talking about the tariffs and how Elon Musk is wrong with the tariffs. You see the recent inflation data, and you see some pressures forming from the tariffs. But overall, yeah. Third parties, not going to happen.
Okay, so Mr. Clark, let's say Musk stays completely out of touch with this administration. There's 2028 to consider. Now, he was the biggest benefactor for Trump's 2024 campaign. So what's that do to a Trump pick or a MAGA nomination? I mean, are they going to have his support? Or has he said goodbye to everybody?
Well, I think it depends on whether President Trump puts the subsidies for EVs back in the BBB, as he has suggested was Elon's real kerfuffle.
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't.
I'm just saying. Trump said it was, right? Oh, and I see you're doing your Musk impersonation. Musk also supported Obama and others. He tends to try to support all the horses in the race. So who knows how he will be. Some say he is abusing ketamine. I don't know who said that or what, but is he losing it? I don't know. I think he's done this country a great service, with buying Twitter, and I find him to be an interesting character. So don't get me wrong, I'm not out to bash Elon, but I think that raises the question: is this going to be an enduring political movement with legs, or is it an egomaniacal flash in the pan? And as Dave pointed out, there was the Reform Party under Ross Perot. The great sucking sound is back again in a new way, but it's different because Perot, as Dave said, was really running on that one issue, and that one issue is definitely a conservative issue. It used to be bipartisan, but Musk is not defined by one issue. As Dave also pointed out, he supports universal basic income. Well, that's a favorite of the left, of the socialists, that Andrew goes to their parties with the American.
Well, maybe he's going to fund it.
The American Spring Break Party. Well, that's a difference too. Ross Perot had to go through a very cumbersome and costly television advertising foundation and money to run, and I think he gained 19% of the vote. So that's a seismic impact. In America, we have a two-party system. As Graham knows, in the United Kingdom, they have a 17,500 party system. They allow pluralism. We don't really allow that here. So that's why ultimately, the center gets crushed. I am the centrist in the group here, by the way. Not really. I am a walk away. There is a movement afoot. The interesting thing about this to me long term is it's not likely, and I think Graham's right that this is more likely, would just simply, if he tries to prevail and endure with it, pull conservative votes away and help the Democrats. But the Democrats are in shambles. They're in total disarray. And some of these, Elon Musk supports carbon credits. He supports the whole climate thing. Of course, he profits from it enormously. So he's definitely a strange animal. And the Democratic Party is in the process of either imploding or reinventing itself. So if they could hook their wagons somehow to Elon's Tesla, because you know how they like Teslas, if they stopped keying them and said, "Oh, welcome back, Elon, you flipped back to our side. Let's, you're our new." I don't see it happening. So I think it's probably going to disintegrate and fall apart. Not that he won't do some damage on the way out the door.
Since January 20th, these people have been calling Musk a Nazi and a fascist. And what? So now they're going to flock to vote for his new political party. Yeah, I don't see that happening at all.
Maybe if he pulls out the Epstein files, because that would draw the MAGA people too. He just needs to come out.
I could go for that. I'm still wanting to see him.
Can I just quickly clarify, as an Elon Musk,
No, you cannot. No.
the Elon Musk fanboy, I got to say that he has opposed EV tax credits for at least 2 years now. He's been on record. The earliest I can tell was in 2023. He was at a Wall Street Journal conference overseas, and he was saying, yeah, abolish EV tax credits. Get rid of them. Now, at the same time, I will say, yes, of course, Tesla has immensely benefited from the EV tax credits. But as time has progressed, he said to Trump on X, get rid of every single subsidy. Get rid of oil and gas subsidies. Get rid of electric vehicle subsidies. Get rid of absolutely everything. So to say that, he's upset with Trump because of the EV tax credits, Trump made it known during the campaign that he was going to abolish it. Musk didn't say anything. This is about, being fiscally responsible and improving the books, which of course, it doesn't look like that's going to happen materially anyway.
Well,
You're working for Musk. He's working for Musk. You've infiltrated our system. All he said, by the way, was that Donald Trump said that
billions.
Elon Musk will start calling him.
I'm shutting you down, guys. Maybe Musk billions can make a difference in a fledgling party, but he is out to protect the Second Amendment, and that'll be attractive to a lot of the electorate. And maybe they'll just hold their nose and not worry about the other stuff. So, thanks for tuning in. Thanks, panel, for an insightful, lovely segment. We are back to twist the brain, having a little fun with our panel of overly excitable people. Scary Dave is running the board, so we may have some order. So buckle up, friends and family. Here we go.
Thank you, Sarah. And it's time for America's penultimate game show, where each of our contestants does their very best, where the rigor is modest and the experience seldom matters. And the intellectual bar is low, so everybody has a chance to participate. So let's get right to it. Remember,
should we introduce our special guest?
Well, we could introduce our special guest. It is, oh my gosh, it is Sleepy Joe Biden, and he's got a hat on. Awesome.
Does he have a pen?
I think he bicycled in, right? He bicycled in from Delaware. That's good to be on the show. Awesome.
Give me some executive orders. I want to sign some.
And he's got his Chicago Cubs hat on. Oh, good. So just remember, expert panelists, and you too, Mr. Biden, to answer the question, you must answer with the letter identifier and the answer.
What?
The shout out with the right answer I hear first will be the winner. So let's get right to it. Okay.
Those rules.
Question number 1. Which world leader visited the White House on Monday, July 7th? Was it Giorgia Meloni, Benjamin Netanyahu, or Mark Carney?
President Joe Biden.
Benjamin Netanyahu, wasn't it?
I don't have any idea.
Which was B.
Sorry.
It was B, Benjamin Netanyahu, and that's 1 for Graham. Good work, Graham. So now question number 2. New documents were recently released regarding which infamous assassination? Was it A, Martin Luther King, B, William McKinley, C, John F. Kennedy,
B,
or
John
D,
F. Kennedy?
Robert Kennedy? Please.
Yeah, John F. Kennedy.
Abraham Lincoln.
So it was Sarah who got that, even though she got it a little early, and it didn't.
The letter and the thing.
You did, but you didn't let me finish all of that.
I gotta wait till the end to find out.
You jumped in on C.
Yeah.
All right, somebody cheater. What my point?
It's all right. It's all right. We have a lot of latitude when we do this program.
Okay.
All right,
Question number 3.
A.
What is the name of the political party Elon Musk claims he has started? How many of you were paying attention to the previous segment? Was it the new Whig Party, the Donner Party, C, the America Party, D,
C.
X Nation, or E, the Boring
C.
Party?
See the American Party.
C.
America.
B.
America.
The American Party.
I want the new Democratic Party and Jag me.
Sarah, you got another one, and you're on the scoreboard twice.
She got the wrong letter, and she
Lucky
found that
you.
you are rewarding bad behavior. This is a moral hazard.
It is indeed.
Immoral.
And
It's known me long enough to know that I
you
don't
are.
like
Question number 4.
do anything
The
normally.
Supreme Court lifted a lower court order on July 8th, clearing the way for the president to do what? A, enforce the 40-hour work week. B, enforce mass layoffs. C, operate Alligator Alcatraz. Or D, close the Department of Education.
B. Enforce mass layoffs.
That's absolutely correct. It could not be more correct, John, had you said it differently. Okay, moving right along. Question number 5. Name the world leader Tucker Carlson recently interviewed. Was it A, Emmanuel Macron, B, Eddie Cantor, C, Idi Amin Dada, or D, Masoud Pezeshkian?
Easy for you to say.
Is it A? I'm guessing. Because I know.
I'm sorry, no one got that in the time allotted, which was the time I allotted, and that is D, Masoud Pezeshkian.
Sir, you said Eddie
Guess I couldn't pronounce it. We just didn't want to look foolish like you did.
Okay, question number 6.
Hello, whoa, whoa, hello. You said Eddie Cantor?
Oh, look, Andrew's here.
Did Andrew wake up for that question? I said Eddie Cantor. Right.
Eddie Cantor, the singer from the 1920s.
Yes, exactly right. If you guessed that,
I'm
would be
so happy since the day.
Yeah, we knew it was a fakie.
In a great big way and a big surprise that someone loves me too.
But
Put your mask back on, please.
question number 6. What is the Democratic Party planning to use against the GOP in the new midterm strategy? Was it Project 2025, B, a real photo of Biden doing his job, C, the big beautiful bill, D, insulting memes?
C.
Big beautiful bill.
Graham, you're on the count. You got it.
Nice, Graham.
But I'm doing my work.
Okay. Question number 7. What did an order issued by the U.S. District Court judge in California on July 11th direct ICE agents to stop doing? A, using large nets. B, using rubber bullets. C, using racial profiling. Or D, using photos of illegal aliens.
C. Using racial profiling.
John is correct.
Do they do that? I mean,
Yes, when they're looking for Hispanic people, they look for Hispanic people.
Yeah.
That's
That's racial profiling.
Amazing how that works. Question number 8.
You want to have a taco yet?
The FBI is investigating former FBI Director James Comey and former CIA Director John Brennan for their involvement in what? A, the Epstein travel manifest. B, the 2020 Russia hoax. The C, stashing cocaine in the White House. Or D, threats made with seashells.
B. The Russia hoax of 2020.
That's correct, John. Moving right along. Question number 9. On July 7th, a gunman in tactical gear ambushed ICE agents at their facility in which state? A, Illinois. B, Louisiana. C, New Jersey. D, Texas. E, Arizona.
D. Texas. D.
Hey, Delaware.
I said C, New Jersey.
Actually, I think that John came in just under the wire or over the wire. He was wired. Okay.
Close to the wire.
Very close to the wire. Question number 10, and the last one, so will take a lot of time, as long as it's not too much time. Name the Smithsonian exhibit that the White House recently spotlighted for its radical portrayal of that too, of ironic figures. A, All-Star Animation Nation. B, Every American's Dream. C, Entertainment Nation. Or D, White Men in History.
I'd like to buy a vowel.
Good, Mr. Biden, you're on the wrong show.
I don't know.
Okay, the time is up. It is Entertainment Nation. And that's all the time we have for our show, folks. It's been a wonderful show with a lot of give and take, which is what we like. And the winner for today is, as I look at my cipher, John with 4 correct answers.
Look at John go. He usually loses.
I enjoy losing. I really do.
Until the very next time, I'm your host, Dave Patterson, and I'm happy to have been with you for Just for Fun.
Thanks for playing, everyone. Hope we left you all with some smiles at dinner party facts and factoids. That's it for our Conservative 5 panel today. Check out our other C5 shows and segments on your favorite video platform. YouTube, Vimeo, Rumble, we're on them all. As well, Liberty Nation News has its own Roku channel where you can see all of our TV productions. Now, Liberty Nation does not endorse candidates, campaigns, or legislation, and this presentation is no endorsement. I'm your host, Sarah Cowgill. Thanks for joining us today for the latest news and commentary. Your choice for free thinking, free speech, libertynation.com.